G'day. I'm back again with this guitar stuff. Some people got a kick out of the last one with the Telecaster Deluxe, which was the first sort of guitar that I bought with my own money that I have kept over the years. Bought it. Anyway, we're moving on to this 1970, 1971 SG, Gibson SG Custom. Now, during the years and even up until today, my love for the first 3 or 4 Alice Cooper records, well, let's just say Easy Action, Love It to Death, Killer, $1 Billion Babies, and there's probably a couple more in there that I really love, but it was Love It to Death that really sort of caught my ear, the songs and the melodies on that. And even though maybe my favourite Alice Cooper song is Mr. Shoe Salesman off of Easy Action, I think it's the second Alice Cooper band record, but or maybe it's the first. Like now they're saying that there was a more psychedelic one that came before, but whatever, you know what I'm fucking talking about. It was the guitar playing of Glen Buxton and Michael Bruce and the songwriting of Michael Bruce that really caught my ear. And as I was talking about with the Telecaster, I heard sounds that I thought I could only get, that I gravitated towards, that I thought I could only get with a certain guitar. So my love for the Alice Cooper group had grown so much that by 1994, I think it was around 94, yeah, it was around 94, I decided that I needed an SG. Both Glen Buxton and Michael Bruce played SGs. Michael Bruce played a standard SG, and Glen Buxton played an SG very similar to this, with 3 humbuckers in it and tremolo arm. Many years later, I would actually play a concert with Michael Bruce in Philadelphia, but that's another story. It's an interesting story, but it's a story for another time. But yeah, I bought this guitar again because I thought I heard a certain sound in it that I really wanted. I bought it from Doug at Sunburst Music in Coogee Bay Road there. Which leads me to the question that why were all the good, or what I thought the good guitar players, I came from the northern beaches over Narrabeen, Collaroy, over Manly Way. And it's just made me think of the question, why were all the great guitar stores in the eastern suburbs in Sydney in the 80s and 90s? Or were they just the only ones I knew about? There was Guitar Crazy and Sunburst, and there was another one closer down. There was one in Bondi as well. And then there was another one in Coogee closer down towards the beach that I can't remember the name of. But anyway, I bought this guitar off of Doug because I heard these kind of sounds, yeah? Yeah, I guess, you know, I was pretty much in love with that record. Love it to death. Still is one of my favourite records of all time. And this guitar, it's a beautiful guitar, and I don't know if you can see all the hazing in the, or I don't know what they call it, where the varnish cracks in a certain beautiful way, but it was pretty much, when I bought it in 94, it was mint. It was like pretty much mint. I mean, I haven't misused it or anything, that's just age. The pickups sound great in this, and again, I haven't touched it since I've owned it, you know what I mean? I've had it set up, and I'm thinking, I've had the Telecaster refretted once, at least once, well, maybe not refretted, yeah, I think it was refretted, the Telecaster. Anyway, this one, I would have had the frets dressed, and by that, for people who, the frets are these things here that give you the intonation in between the notes, but I haven't really touched it, you know what I mean? It's just been a great guitar. Another guitar that I think by the time Asteroid B612 had got around to making the second record, I had started to write the songs, and at that point, Michael, when I had started to write all the songs, Michael Gibbons was still in the band, but he would leave the band before we recorded the second record, and Stuart would come in and play guitar. And I think that this guitar, it sits better in a mix. The sound of this guitar is great, but it's not as, the Telecaster has this certain unique sound where it, from my ears, it seems to sort of overtake a mix a little bit, whereas this guitar sort of sits in better in a mix with other guitars. Like it plays well with others, this one, you know what I mean? Like some kids don't play well with others, this guitar plays well with others. And it certainly shaped the sound of Stuart's guitar was more prominent on the second. So we had, no disrespect to Michael, I love him, he knows I love him, but we went from having one guitar on the first record that was more prominent to having on the second record of Asteroid B612 to having two guitar players that were more prominent. So this guitar sort of fitted into the mix of where the band was at that stage more, because it, like I said, it played well with others. So it's responsible for, I don't know, things like it mixed well, this guitar, the sound of this guitar mixed well with, you know, another guitar. What else was it used in? It was used in straight back to you. Has a great rock and roll sound, this guitar. I would later use it on This was the guitar that I think was pretty much for September Crush. Tune a little bit, or it was out of tune to begin with anyway. You get the picture. Again, I'm running it straight into the little elk stage, 60 stage watt valve amps, about 10 watts, just direct in so you get the sound of the guitar. Again, what my Samsung Galaxy 6 telephone picks up or not may be a good indication of the guitar or not, and you may hear the difference from this to the Telecaster or not, but I can hear it here. And like I've said before, you get the feel of a guitar when you're standing in front of it, and it doesn't need to be cranked up to a ridiculous level like I used to do it through a 70s custom high watt through 2 cabinets, which was totally fucking I'm not sure what I was doing, checking dick sizes or something like that, because it was completely ridiculous. But at the time it felt right to have that sort of power, and you know, some people loved it, a lot didn't, but at the time I loved it. But again, this guitar, once it was, you know what I mean, like I went through different stages musically and replaced it with something else, it would sit in the case, but this guitar would get used a lot in the studio because of the reason that I said before about it being a guitar that sat in a mix well, you know what I mean, like when it really sat in a mix well. And I think the certain guitars and certain feels and sounds of guitars can write songs as well, can give you inspiration or can point you in a direction to write certain songs. And I really think that this guitar was really influential in the direction of songs that I was writing, or the sound of the second and third Asteroid B612 records. And it's not an egotistical thing that I'm saying that the guitar shaped the songs and it was the only thing that shaped the bands, because the drummer and the bass player and the singer, of course, are of equal importance or at times more importance. But if you're the guitar player and you're writing the majority of the songs, and the guitar is shaping or pointing you in the direction of what you want to hear, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that you know, that guitars can certainly shape a song, sound, and you know, as silly as it may sound, even like going after the certain look of a guitar, it's all these things inspire you for different reasons, or have done for me. You know, as honest as I like to be songwriting, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that certain guitars and certain sounds and certain looks of guitars didn't inspire me as well, and I don't think that that's a terrible thing. Yeah, it would get used on the Not Meant for This World all through that record, and like I said, all through I don't think that the Telecaster got used again once I got this. It used to be at gigs or something like that. A friend of mine, Dave, wrote a comment on the last post about the Telecaster that the first time he seen me play, I was playing this guitar in Wollongong, and truth be told, that he said it was at Wollongong University, and I'm almost certain that Asteroid B612 only played at Wollongong University once. And I remember that I had bought this guitar from Doug. I had given him, this guitar cost me $2,100 in 1994. And I had given him $1,000 and said, hold it for me and I'll come and pay you the rest or something like that. I had that gig in Wollongong, well, Asteroid B612 had that gig in Wollongong, and I was so desperate to play the guitar that on the way to the gig, on the way to the concert, driving from Sydney down to Wollongong, whomever was driving me down there, whether it was Bullet or whomever, I can't remember who was driving the car or the van or whatever, I said, we got to go via Coogee because I've got to pick up the guitar. I had scrounged around and got the money, or I'd saved up enough money to finish giving Doug the money. So I took it straight out of the shop with whatever strings was on it, which I can tell you later were not my kind of strings. They were extremely light and I use a certain, they're not necessarily heavy gauge strings, but I use a certain string so that it feels a certain way when I bend it. And this came out of the shop with whatever strings are on it. I took it straight down, plugged it in, and I don't even think we had a sound check that night, but I remembered thinking halfway through the concert, this guitar's fucked, like it's not working. It just wasn't working, or I hadn't gotten used to it and I hadn't set it up the way that I wanted to play it. And I kind of thought to myself, fuck, maybe I bought a dud here. But I took it straight to the concert and played it, plugged it in. I wasn't aware of how it was going to sound through my high watt into the cabinets. I was so used to what the Telecaster sounded like, so I knew how to set it up. This was like no rehearsal, straight to the concert. So halfway through, I was sitting there thinking, wow, it's not doing the things that I want it to do. But I would get it home and work it out, and it would do its thing. I use this a lot in the studio, like I said. It has a certain sound. It's got a nice clean sound to it. Certainly the notes ring really, really true. And the song I wrote, Tears in a Town She Calls Home, needed a guitar sort of picking just certain notes. And this was the guitar for it. I remember playing this through my old AC30, and it really, you can hear it in that song too. I mean, I'm going to play it in a different key now, but you can hear trying to think other songs that I played it on. I played it a lot in the studio. I'm mixing some songs at the moment for a new thing that I'm doing at the moment, a bunch of different singles, and I use this guitar a lot on those songs that I'd written in that as well. Again, just because it really fits well in a mix, at least it does to my ears. It's versatile, but it's got a great sound, and I mean they're super expensive now, I think, but it's a beautiful guitar. With a sort of, it's a rare colour too, this sort of natural mahogany colour. But yeah, sounds great when you crank it up, and sounds really nice when you're just playing at a low level as well. Anyway, I've rambled on enough here. I think I've gone, nearly 20 minutes. That's 5 minutes over my quota. So I hope you got something out of it, and I'll jump onto another guitar sooner or later. But have a great day. Be as nice to each other as you can, or as the others let you be. And best wishes to you all. Hasta pronto.